into things not going to the way that they are used to. So Uzbekistan definitely can use that element of surprise in this next match as we get into the drafting phase. Uzbekistan, Jushin being banned out, and we also see the chip taken away from Indonesia.
Coach Casey is making sure that no dairy make it through to the draft. Closing off all the gaps. The chip taken out. Uzbekistan taking out the Hayabusa. I'm getting throwbacks to yesterday's grand finals, wherein the Hayabusa was specifically attacked. So if we're to follow the current metagame, these two teams want to have that Suyo alpha trade open. So even if it's a different battlefield, one could argue some things remain true.
Right. And one of them being Chip, Suyo, red side, first phase ban. Oh yeah, definitely. Still gonna stick to that. That is universal in MLBB esports now. Ban down those heroes in the first phase. Uzbekistan's banning pattern a little bit more unique based from what I'm used to, but we do see Jushin first phase bans. However, that usually comes from an era wherein teams play or prioritize rather slower up-in-your-face roamers that don't have a lot of dashers. I'm thinking they might actually even be considering a high loss as a first pick. That's one of the signals you get from a Jushin first phase ban or a Hilda.
Which is why I think this makes sense, right? Because I don't know how far Kana is familiar now with a lot more assassin plays, but from what we saw from the qualifiers, she's only been playing the Julian, the Roger, and the Baxia. So these are heroes that can be quite susceptible to the Jushin. So on top of the respect for Cine, there's also that argument to be made there.
All three heroes mentioned have been bumped out of the metagame for very good reasons. In Indonesia, last ban, D'Angela, again closing off these gaps. Hard commit by Team Uzbekistan on the Harith.
Yep. So that's one of the mentalities that we're used to seeing from teams who aren't, well, used to the upper echelon of competitive MLBB. They chase their carries right away. So they go for the Harith. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, we did say, hey, in this kind of setup, go for surprise. And what is more surprising than the Harith first pick? Instantly, that's responded to by Indonesia with a Lunox. So we know that's going to be a magic duel in the gold lane. However, I'm not going to take it away from Indonesia to just surprise, park that Lunox into the mid instead, and then pick up another gold laner. So with Indonesia picking up the Alpha, it's similar to having the Alpha and the Harith in terms of how fast that they are going to get their power spikes. The answer to that is very fast.
Very little ramp up for an Alpha. As soon as he hits level 2, you're good to go. Spear of Alpha is just the icing on the cake. It's what allows for the Alpha to re-engage, disengage. Uzbekistan have to consider that. I was going to say pick up a jungler now or else end up with a weird hero that's going to face off against that Alpha. So they do eventually get the high loss and this the Edith. Do we go Valentina here for Team Indonesia?
I think Valentina would be a good pickup. Once you see that Edith, you see that high loss, this easy Valentina pick. If they decide to go for something a little bit more range in the mid, I wouldn't knock that too. But if it's Indonesia wanting to be aggressive, control the tempo, show off the mid-laner skill difference, that's where you go for the Valentina. With Uzbekistan picking up 3 magic damage heroes right away, Indonesia can just rush to the Radiant Armors early on. And speaking of Radiant Armor, that's one guy who would want to pick up a Radiant Armor, maybe second item after a Thunderbolt.
But it looks like the Gatot's going to be picked up here as the final pick from Indonesia. So they're actually going to bide their time to get into the mid laner. Earlier on, Leo was, what is it called? Mouthing Eve? And I was thinking Luo Yi as well.
Luo Yi Eve, these are heroes that warrant a ban in the first phase, whether red or blue. And it's uncharacteristic of these two teams to cover their bases, invest in what they feel is their comfort that'll pay off regardless of what the opponent punishes with, and leave the Eve and the Lugi out. So I'm guessing either of them will start attacking either the mid or, in Indonesia's case, the jungle, and then commit to what's left. Indonesia is in a better seat to do that.
Oh,
interesting.
Good.
Fanny.
Yeah. I think Indonesia's thinking like, ooh, there might be a Fanny assassin. You posed the question earlier, it turned out.
I did.
Like, how ready are they with the assassins? But maybe disrespect by Indonesia. They just don't want to face it if ever there is. So now for Uzbekistan, more physical damage would be required. Their XP and Roam are both magic. Weirdly enough, that means they're mid laner if they have an Indonesian fighter, or that's going to be 4 magic damage dealers, and there's only going to be 1 source of physical damage in the jungle, which might, if they don't get the early game that they want, will actually come back to haunt them.
Get punished hard.
Yeah.
Singular items coming in from Indonesia were very low to the ground. There's one solid damage, physical damage that you can invest in. Well read by Coach Casius and Team Indonesia. Uzbekistan, though, are they going to continue attacking the mid lane? Do they have the Eve here now? They picked their poison.
Wait a second. Sorry, guys. Are Uzbekistan drafting without a coach?
It looks like it's just the ladies.
Yeah, it's just the ladies up on stage.
Wow. All right, so we'll see how this pans out once again. Phobia's banned out. What do you think is going to be the next pick for Indonesia?
They can go for physical gold. I honestly really would not mind putting this Lunox in the mid. But if ever, then yeah, Eve. I get the Eve, but at the same time, I see the Edith and the Hylos, and as an Eve player myself, I'm thinking, might be a little bit too tough. But the Gata Kajan Alpha does provide a good enough front line up against what Uzbekistan shows. And that
the real world manipulation becomes a boxing ring. Like you set it up.
It might end up becoming even like a trap for... Yeah, no. Wouldn't mind Eve. Go ahead if you want to.
CC from Indonesia. That's actually a signature pick coming in from Boomy. It's a hero that we haven't seen too much of, especially with the recent changes in the meta. What do you guys think about it? What's the latest update on this CC?
We saw a couple of CCs in the group stage of the men's MLBB here at WEC 24, and I'm guessing why Coach Casius and Team Indonesia green lit the CCs because the lack of damage profile to actually punish a CC in the early to mid, and then when she hits her power spike, she's nigh unstoppable. Uzbekistan, though, there you go, the jungler that we were looking for, the jungler that they needed at the time. I'm actually liking this. I actually like the X-Borg in the alpha.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Not a bad pick of there at all. You know the CC's are going to want to front. The export can help front that, but with the Edith and the high loss, and plus the Karai control from the Vixana, one of my problems with the Uzbekistan draft is just way too magic-coded for my taste. That a few Radiant Armors coming in early from Indonesia, maybe after their first initial items, you're going to see a severe fall off in damage up until you get the Divine Glaive into that Harith. Damage might just actually be severely lacking. Good thing they packed up with True in the jungle. For the last one,
Still a mid.
Part of me, I don't know why I'm thinking physical gold there.
The Lunox indeed ended up in the mid.
It did go Lunox mid. See, the X-Borg, the Hylos, the Edith, the Bruno, I feel like, for me, I don't know how you feel, it feels like it's well protected.
I think that's what the last pick slot was left for. Depending on what the 2-pick swing from Uzbekistan was in the blue, they would have decided where the Lunox was going to go anyways. Because in my experience, 4 out of 5 Lunoxes in mid don't pay off.
I agree. I think it takes a little bit more resources to be able to hit that moment where she deals that damage, and also in the laning phase it's a little tricky, especially with the lack of range and so on and so forth. But how does the Bruno fare against the Harith in the gold lane?
Actually, I feel like one of the reasons why they decided to park the Bruno into the Harith is that, they also acknowledge that maybe a little bit more physical would be good. With the chunks of damage that the Bruno can deal, it should be able to temper the Harith a little bit. With the experience, of course, of that Shell has over her counterpart in lane, Bruno is a great pickup for lane bullying.
Save for the Lunox, Indonesia are firing off on all cylinders. This is a lineup that just goes much faster and can do a lot on the map with very little economy. It should be a fast game if they protect that Lunox mid.
So let's see how all of this unravels, ladies and gentlemen, in the land of Dawn, because only execution will tell. So now we're going to throw it over to our casters. Mirko, Naiso, take it away.
And take it away, we shall. Thank you, Eterna, Renmar, and Leo for breaking it down. Welcome again to us here on the caster stand. It's me, Naisu, and Mirko to bring you the action. Day number 1 of the group stages here for MLBB Women's here at WEC ISF 2024. And I know, the panel talked about this pretty well, Mirko. You know, they mentioned that, obviously, call the spade the spade. The tournament favorite right now is Indonesia. We know how much experience they have, but I love to see it again. Even this draft alone for Uzbekistan, very interesting draft to bring to the table, very magic heavy, but we'll see. Again, this is a best of one, right, for the group stages, so we'll see this time around as we jump into the land of Dawn. Mirko, how are you feeling about the draft? Do you think this is a little overloaded on magic damage from Uzbekistan, or is it going to work?
Yeah, I think it's definitely overloaded with damage here. I think Renmar already brought a good point out, right? If they go for Radiant Armor first item, tough boots as well, really tough for Uzbekistan to get through some of these frontliners. What's good is the fact that they are up against a Kacha, something that should do well against physical, but against magical, you should be able to still burst them down, right?
Yeah.
The only concern for me now is the Export, because now Export is really the main physical damage dealer, or the main non-magic damage dealer in this team. If Indonesia get rid of the Faraga armor early on, win out the poke battle before the turtle, it's going to be really hard for Uzbekistan to deal damage. You can already see here in the mid lane, Vivian and Cine. Even though Kacha doesn't do too well against magic, you can see exactly how much pressure he has in the lane itself.
Yeah, you know, all she has to do is basically get the Unbreakable taunt off. You know, for the most part, early game, Vivian doesn't have to do too much work. She did get a Revitalize out too from Yule. So, I mean, it'll be back up by the time they actually decide to fight, if they, you know, go aggressive on the first objective here. But so far, I think, yeah, the panel really broke things down with this. And one of the big aspects to this too is they're going to be so confident in the fact that they have this alpha in the hands of Vivol, and you